Hello, listeners, and welcome to a special bonus chapter, or maybe this is actually a special Footnotes chapter of Bite-Sized Tales. So, this is Chris, and for this book, I'm doing a special kind of writing challenge, but I want to give you a bit of context first. First of all, you do not have to listen to this to enjoy the story contributions that will come in the book. This is just sort of explaining where a lot of this stuff is coming from, just to give you a fuller picture of what's happening here. But again, this is not a required listening episode. You can just leave it here if you'd like and just enjoy the stories. But here's some context as to what's happening with my contributions this book. One of my favorite types of podcasts to listen to is the solo role-playing actual play podcast. Now, this is a podcast where a tabletop gamer runs a solo game, so it's just them. And often they will then combine the results of random dice rolls with various tables provided in the rule books of the game to help give some creative inspiration to a story narrative. They let the dice decide the course of action to a significant degree. And in doing so, in combining this narrative and then dice-driven approach, even the gamer, in this case, doesn't know where the story is actually going. So it's kind of an exciting thing to listen to. And there are a lot of podcasts in this niche to fit various tastes. And if you're interested in checking out any of these, I would point you to the soloroleplayersnetwork.com website, all one word, to find a show that you may like, or to at least sample several shows. Now, I'm not doing that exact thing here, but what I am doing is I'm going to be using a variety of specialized cards and some dice rolls and some tables from various books to help me build character and story prompts. So I'm going to take what these cards give me, which is completely random, and build my characters for the story that you've hopefully already listened to, as well as the initial and overall seeds of a plot. Now from there, like I said, I'm going to build a short multi-part story that will span most, if not all, of my contributions to this book of Bite-Sized Tales. Hopefully, you have already listened to it and enjoyed that first part. Now, genre-wise, I decided to go with fantasy as that's kind of the default setting for a lot of these actual play podcasts that I mentioned earlier, but obviously I could use any genre I want. But fantasy is a comfortable genre to use, and it's familiar, so I want to kind of stick with something I know since I'm going to be doing this experiment. And we're going to roll, or in this case, draw a card to find out if it's high fantasy, meaning a high presence of magic, or low fantasy, where magic is known, but certainly not commonplace. All of the products that I'm going to be using here shortly, I'm going to provide links in the footnotes, but I will quickly name them here, just so you can see what things I used if you're interested in this, because a lot of this stuff can be used outside of games. It can be used for writing as well. Okay. For my characters, I'm using a set of cards known as the Better Backstories cards. These are going to give me the basics of the protagonists of my story. For other elements, I'm going to be using a deck of cards known as the Gamemaster's Apprentice deck that's produced by Larcenous Designs. For the portion of the world that the characters will be exploring, and any possible encounters that might come along with the story, but it's not guaranteed it's going to happen, I'm going to be using a product called Hex Dek from Philip Reed Games. And finally, to give me the overall plot, I'm going to be using a couple of tables from the Mythic GM Emulator from Word Mill Games, specifically the meaning tables for actions. But this rather hefty tome has a lot of other tables and a lot of other things in there that can be used. It is important to note that there's a ton of these types of products out there. A variety of things. These are just the ones that I own and want to try using in this manner. If you're interested in such things, I encourage you as writers or as gamers to shop around a bit. Read some reviews, descriptions, talk to people, see which ones might be of interest to you. I also will provide pictures in the show notes for this one so you can see everything that I have drawn out for myself in regards to what I'm doing here. Okay, so first up, I want to create my characters. I have 3 main characters and possibly 4 characters that I will be using in this story. If I need another main character, I'll go back and create it. But I want to get these first 3 characters established. So to do that, I'm using the Better Backstory cards, and there's only really guidelines when it comes to the rules. So I'm being kind of loosey-goosey here. But it recommends for starting heroes to deal out 5 cards. So let's do so. So I'm going to deal out 5 cards. These cards have a variety of different word prompts on them, as well as some additional descriptors that me, as the writer, I'm free to use if I like. The first one up, we have these are the 5 keywords. We have tragedy, fable, blessing, enigma, and wealthy. So I'm going to pick these as attributes for this character. Okay, so with each card, it has a little bit of a description here. We have for wealthy, for example, it says your family comes from above average means. They might even be nobles. You might have been born into privilege, or you were there while your family improved their station. Also, the Enigma card I find to be quite interesting. A family member has always been hesitant to talk about their past. So right now we have a character who probably comes from money, has a mysterious family member going on here. Then there's also this fable card. A specific tall tale of adventure or mystery has always fascinated you. You were motivated to emulate the hero of the story or to discover the truth behind the legend. So already you can kind of see the foundation of a character. We have someone who's wealthy. They have a mysterious family member of some sort. There is a story associated, and I can make this connection saying maybe this is a story about that family member that they're interested in checking out or exploring or verifying the truth to. And then we also have blessing and tragedy. And with these two, there's a little bit of there's tables with each one on each card that you can randomly determine what these might be. So under the blessing, let's draw another card with a random number on it and see what we get. So I'm just going to pick a random card out of here. I'm not looking, just so you know. Random number I get for that is the number 2, which is you're good at making new friends. So this person is obviously very friendly. And the tragedy, sometimes bad things happen. We're going to grab, and we get number 10. You were banished from your home. So here we go. We have a wealthy individual fascinated with the story of a relative of some sort who is very good at making friends. However, they were banished from their home. So what I'm thinking of, what strikes me with this, is that this individual was indeed banished because this family member, who is an enigma, was not well liked by the family. This character got far too curious about this family member to the point where it aggravated someone in a position of power in their family. They were then banished from the family and now have set out on their own. Okay, so we have those basic attributes about this character. I like this character already. This is kind of fun. All right, I'm going to use the GM Apprentice cards to give me a name for this character. We have Garret, Bianca, or Ewan, and I kind of like the name Garret, so we're going to go with the name Garret for this character. And we're going to go ahead and stick with this particular card for Garret's, though he's been banished from the family, maybe he hasn't lost all of his connections yet. Under belongings, we have deed, a land in the country, an old mansion, or a battered ship. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to be yet, but Garret has these possessions. Beyond being good at making friends, we don't really have too many other attributes for Garret. So let's just draw one more card for Garret and get a couple more character traits for him. Hopefully, it'll line up. All right, we have diligence, envy, and a bloody nose. Interesting. Off the top of my head, Garret's diligence obviously is in discovering maybe the truth of his relatives, his enigma relative's story. The envy, not too sure yet what that might be. We'll have to think on that one a little bit. And bloody nose, maybe he has some sort of physical ailment where his nose bleeds all the time. Maybe it's tied to something. I'm not quite sure yet. But I think we have a good picture of Garret. So let's go on to the next character. Let's deal out our 5 cards. So here we have birthmark, breakup, famous, gift, and rebel. So the rebel card here, you were a part of a revolt or revolution against the ruling powers. You may still identify with their goals or may have been recognized as a member of, or may always be recognized as a member of the group. The revolution might have been put down or you're in hiding or could still be ongoing if you're an active member. Okay, kind of like that. Gift, you've received a large sum of money or a special item from an older family member. They may have been close to you in your childhood or they were a distant relation that you've never met. Famous, you did something that gained you wide acclaim in your homeland. It may have come from your natural talents, advanced training, or the luck of the draw. You are easily recognized over a wide area. All right, so the rebel and the famous clearly kind of go together to me as well. This is someone maybe who has led a revolution, is on the run, failed in some effort to get something taken care of, using a special item, a gift that was given to them. The other two cards we drew are Birthmark and Breakup, and these are ones with random tables on them. Interesting that I got 2 cards with random tables last time and 2 cards this time. So we're going to draw 2 more random numbers. For Birthmark, we get a 6, which is a dragon, has dragon tattoo on their body. And for the Breakup, which is your parents split up during your childhood, and apparently this is the reason, or something in effect of that, we got a 1. You went through various foster homes. So we have an individual here who has become well-known for a variety of reasons. And you know what? It makes sense that maybe this dragon tattoo is probably the reason why. This is an individual who has been marked by dragons in some way, perhaps. Its parents are unknown. They've gone through foster families and somehow now has been inspired to lead a revolution which ultimately seemed to fail. Or maybe it succeeded and they disappeared. I'm not sure yet. Let's find a name for this individual. We have Clarence, Gemma, or Chandra. I like Gemma or Chandra, or Gemma, I guess, if you want to interpret it that way. So we're going to go with Chandra for this. Some additional traits as well is mercy, lust, and singing. So I kind of like these traits with with Chandra, because perhaps her ability to show mercy, or that speaks to a kind heart. Maybe this was some way in which to help gain some revolutionaries. I'm getting a little bit better idea here. The singing could be some way in which to kind of soothe her own spirit because of the fact of not knowing her parents and the life that she grew up. Or that could also be another reason why she's famous. Perhaps she's a minstrel or a bard and was known for her singing voice. And then the dragon tattoo was just part of that as well. Let's draw one more card and figure out some belongings. Here we go. Now this one doesn't fully go with Chandra, but I'm going to think about this a little bit. The belongings: thieves' tools, a purse slitting knife, lock picks, network cracking device. I'm not sure if that really works. The belongings on the other card that I drew were illegal weapon. If we just stick with that, which could have been the gift that was given. Again, I kind of like this with Chandra. Looks like she's got some good attributes here. Let's stick with these. Time for our last character. Let's deal out 5 more cards. We have hobby, stranger, pet, romance, and runaway. And here we have 4 of these 5 cards all have random tables to them. Stranger, let's read that one. That's the one that doesn't. A mysterious person arrived when you were young and left a gift. This could have been a message, an item, or just a good blessing. Your parents may or may not have abided by the stranger's wishes. Pet, of course, you have or had a unique animal friend. Perhaps that was the gift. Romance, to love and be loved is the greatest adventure. Runaway, you left your family behind. Hobby, you had an interesting hobby during childhood. All right, so we need to generate some random numbers for all of these. Let's do that. For hobby, we have number 6, field of study, chemistry, programming, engineering. We'll have to think about that. Since this is fantasy-based, chemistry could be alchemy, could be history, legends, perhaps. The pet, random number here, is a 3. It's a songbird or a hawk. Okay, interesting. Romance, 3. You and your lover grew apart, so a lost love for this character. And for runaway, we have 5. You have been taken in by a new family. So a stranger stopped by, left a gift. I'm not sure if the songbird or the hawk is necessarily the right thing here. We'll see what we get when we do our last couple of cards. Had a lover at one point. That love has now been lost or grew apart. We don't know exactly how that may have happened, but maybe someone that's going to be met along the way. And then was taken in by a new family after running away. Has a field of study, which we're not quite sure yet. We haven't quite established that. We'll think about that. All right, let's figure out a name for this individual. We have Patrick, Ophelia, and Phrixus. I like Phrixus right away because that's unusual. And in traits under here for Phrixus, we have honesty, treachery, and red eyes. So Phrixus has red eyes. I'm thinking perhaps these red eyes are a side effect, a byproduct of the gift that was given. However, Phrixus is known to be quite honest, but treacherous for some reason. Or maybe the treachery was the reason why the lovers grew apart. And, you know, I kind of actually like that idea now that I think about it. Phrixus had a very honest soul about them. This lover that Phrixus had was someone who was treacherous to them, and they since grew apart. Let's do one more for the belongings on this one. All right, we have here personal papers, letters, legal summons, daily itinerary. Not sure if that's workable. So one of the features on these particular cards is you can flip it over and there's something else on the other side. These are double-sided cards with some additional information. If we flip this card over, we get petty jewelry, costume rings, glass beads, and enamel bracelet. I kind of like that for some reason. What if those items, this fake jewelry, so to speak, was the gift that was given? And maybe this is the treachery. Maybe these items were meant to look like famous legendary items. And this was the treachery, was an aspect of the treachery that happened. Phrixus, who is an honest soul at heart, took these initial gifts at their word when they were given by this person, only to learn later in life that this was a lie, this was another treachery. Phrixus, this is one of Phrixus's life lessons. I kind of like where this is going with Phrixus here. Okay, so those are our 3 characters for right now. We have Garret, Phrixus, and Chandra. I know that I want one of these characters to be able to cast spells, but we haven't determined the level of magic yet. Okay, now it is time to build the area that these characters will explore on. And to do that, I'm taking the Hex Dek cards, and my goal here is I'm going to deal out. We'll start with 5 cards, and you'll see in the photo in the show notes how these are designed. It shows a certain number of hexes in types of terrain, and then has some additional text in there about what might be found in there and possibly worth exploring. How I plan to do this is I'm going to take a look at these, and then once I get the overall quest thing determined, or quest prompts determined, I will again try and use those cards with that prompt and piece together an overall story. I'm not going to work that out here because I kind of want you to discover the story as I discover the story. So here's our 5 cards. Rather than describe all of the terrain that's on here, I'll give kind of an overview of what it looks like. We have just a little bit of water. Could be lakes, could be rivers, combined with some forestry. Looks like there's a couple of keeps around here as well. Some Badlands types area. Also some strange crystalline structure type things, as well as maybe a village or 2. With these, I'll just read the initial text for each card just to kind of put something in your mind about what this might be. We have on one card, a ghostly ship. On the other, we have the spindly stalks. Not really sure what that might be. Another one, we have Camp Trollblood. And then another one, we have Portal to Elsewhere. And the final one here is Tower of the Disgraced Paladin. Then for each of these, there's a little bit of additional text, and of course, you'll be able to read these on the show notes. Last but not least, let's take a look at our Mythic GM Emulator prompt. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with this, essentially what this is, it is 2 tables that go from 1 to 100, each number having a corresponding word. One is a verb, one is a noun. You put these 2 words together, you roll on one table, you roll on the other table, you put these 2 words together, and that gives you kind of a 2-word prompt for what this could be, or what the story could be, or what it is you're kind of looking for. It's very, very open-ended, but it's something to get your mind thinking about where you want to go. Okay, so with these cards, I'm drawing, and they have random numbers on them as well. I have either 70 or 76 because of the way the cards are arranged. Those 2 options are protect or relinquish. The second card I drew is a 10 or a 5. So it could either be 10 or 15. I'm going to look at it in that way. So 10 is burden, or 15 is completion. So we could have protect burden or relinquish completion. What I think I'm going to choose here is the protect burden option. How I'm going to actually determine this, I'm not sure. My initial thought is that these 3 have come together to carry on some sort of burden of protection towards some ultimate goal. What that is, I'm not entirely sure yet. We'll have to figure that out. I'm going to have to do some thinking on that. But as the cards do, they kind of get you going in that direction. Okay, the last thing I need to determine is this a high or low magic setting? So I'm going to draw one final card, and I'm going to look at essentially the 6-sided die. And if it's a 1 through 3, it will be low magic. 4 through 6, a high magic. All right, I've drawn my card. It is a 4. So this is a high magic setting. Now, that doesn't mean that there's magic all over the place. It just means to me, it is something that is relatively commonplace. People are more than aware of it. While it certainly still does carry a mystique, it isn't something that gives everyone a lot of fear. With those things in place, I am now going to go forth and make the story. And again, I hope that you have listened to the first part. I hope that you've enjoyed it. And I'm just as curious as you are as to see where this story goes and where Garret, Chandra, and Phrixus will lead us. Okay, thanks so very much for listening. And we look forward to reading you again next time. This Footnotes of Bite-Sized Tales has been brought to you under a Creative Commons Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Intro and outro music is Algona by Ross Budgeon. Find him on Instagram at Ross Budgeon. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, we greatly appreciate reviews and recommendations to your friends. For more information about our authors, please visit bitesizedtales.com or follow us on Instagram at bite_size_tales. We look forward to reading to you next time.